Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Impact Rooms with me, Fletcher from Douglas Jackson. Today I'm joined by Mubeen Shariff, who is the Senior Workforce Staffing Manager of Operational Fulfillment at HelloFresh. Mubeen, how are you today?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. A little bit of a
Good.
cold, but getting there.
Good, good. I think everyone's got it off. Sam, I've got a bit of a cough as well. So if we have to pause, we'll pause for a cough. But yeah, there we are. So,
That's fine.
Mabeen, thanks for joining us today. So obviously,
Thanks for
it'd be
having
good
me.
just to understand a bit more about yourself, where you've got to. Obviously, you've got a really interesting background, which obviously we can find out more about, and obviously how you got into to workforce staffing and workforce management, really. So, but we'll start off with the fun, happy question of obviously what is your favorite travel destination, Mabeen, and why?
Um, I'd say it'd have to be Kyoto in Japan. My wife and I went there a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I can't describe anything said that comes close to it. It's very much like the world on steroids, so to speak.
Wow.
Whilst it's very much on steroids, it's a place that's quite authentic, and you still feel like you've walked into a bit of a time capsule, and there's geishas running about, and it's littered with temples, and the hustle and bustle of what you do, would be synonymous with Japan.
Mm.
And also the food and the drinks. Yeah, it was just one of the places that you fall in love with straight away.
No, brilliant stuff. Yeah, no, very interesting country, Japan. I always hear great stuff about it. It's on the bucket list, so we'll see. But yeah, no, so fine. So Mabeen, as I mentioned at the start, obviously very interesting career that you've had, and obviously falling into this more of a resource um planning, workforce planning space. So do you mind giving us a quick elevator pitch, really, just a quick introduction to yourself and who you are and what you're
Sure.
about, really?
Sure. So I'll give you a couple of highlights. I started life as a recruitment consultant, working through the ranks up into a principal within the property and construction space. And then after that, I moved in-house, working on a variety of talent management projects, and did a bit of management consultancy over my career. And after completing some projects within the management consultancy space, I landed a position at HelloFresh. Started off life at HelloFresh as a talent acquisition manager, looking at operational fulfillment in the UK initially. And then as of last year, I've been looking at operational fulfillment, but on the volume side, and working very closely with teams overseas in America, in Canada, having joint meetings and working quite closely with teams over in Australia as well, and most importantly in Germany, as we're a German business.
Okay, great stuff. Fine. So, as I say, obviously your career has been very interesting. Obviously, the way you've progressed through. So, what one piece of advice would you give to someone wanting to progress their career in to become a senior manager within workforce staffing and workforce operational planning? Um, in within this area, really.
Um, I guess rather than somebody becoming a manager, I'd look at it in terms of progression overall.
Mm,
A lot of the time we can look at becoming a manager as the only way to progress, but you can reach similar sorts of levels as an individual contributor. I guess the first thing is be realistic with yourself and understand, are you a man manager, and are you a people's manager, or alternatively, are you really skilled in what you do, and are you looking to progress that way? I'd say keep on learning. Learning never stops, and have a clear, defined path, and use the learning as well as an outline in terms of whether you're a people manager or whether you want to be an individual contributor to carve out the route that you want to take. Have open conversations with your senior leadership team and
mm,
outline this is what you want to achieve, and then work backwards and try and figure out the journey together as an organization.
yeah.
Because if you're looking to progress within your organization, then you need to understand that the channels and the routes are available. And alternatively, if you're looking to progress by yourself, then it'll be more heavily weighted towards the learning side and gaining that credibility to underpin your working experience.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Fine. And Mubeen, obviously, one of the reasons I wanted to invite you onto the Impact Room today was we've had a couple of conversations recently around trends in the industry and stuff, and one of them was around obviously the discussion of workforce planning and the redeployment of the workforce,
Sure.
etc. So it'd be interesting to say just to get kind of your view on um, that conversation we had recently, really.
Yeah, I think I think workforce planning, resource management, whatever you want to call it, is becoming a topic which is being thrown around a lot more. I'm finding, especially within the in-house talent sort of space, and having conversations with other peers as well. Before there were things in and around mobilization, and global mobility. DNI is very much a hot topic, and I believe it will continue to be a hot topic for a while. But workforce planning is now creeping in there. I think organizations need to be very realistic in terms of what workforce planning actually means to them. Whilst some organizations may look at it as we need to ensure that we have we're recruiting during peaks and turning down, and what that looks like when we're not as busy. But I think more importantly, it's like, how do you retain staff, and really planning on retaining staff? Because when you lose staff, you're losing a skill set. You're losing their understanding of the nuances of your organization, and that's the stuff that you can't buy, and that's the stuff that's not written on a job description, and that sorts of this what you're kind of looking for, which is quite difficult to find in some candidates. So I think it has to be mainly heavily weighted towards retention, and reducing attrition overall, but then also looking at being quite smart in terms of when your peaks are as a business, and planning for peak, and making sure that you give yourself enough lead time. Look at external factors which could influence those things, such as religious festivals or bank holidays. We've had quite a few of those recently. And then finally, really understanding your workforce. If you've got people who are retiring, or coming to retiring age, plan ahead rather than 3 months before, or waiting for somebody to create a requisition. Really understand, and really understand the impact that that person is going to leave behind when they leave. So, planning ahead for that, getting them to provide a skill share, or a knowledge share of their experiences, and their understanding of the business. Recruit the person a couple of months in advance. If you've got people going on maternity or paternity leave, rather than leaving it to the last minute, really plan ahead for that. And then also, you generally have an exodus of people leaving organizations around the 2-year mark.
Mm.
Try and see how you can either retain, or start planning ahead if you've got peaks on, and look at year-on-year data, and what the trends are of your organization, and really work towards those things, and hopefully that should, I wouldn't say so much as fix the problem, but put you in the right direction to fixing issues in and around attraction and retention.
Yeah, no, it's so true, isn't it? It obviously it's so out there in the market at the moment. It is difficult to recruit at different levels across the business. As I say, retention is huge, and it is something that I think within the planning space, especially more. Obviously we've got the data to show it, but it is that understanding and that insight of why is it happening, how can we prevent it, what is it, and but also to say how that skills can be used elsewhere and utilize it. Great, no, great points. Fine. So obviously looking back at your career, obviously as you mentioned, started off in recruitment, obviously went through, etc., etc. So what would you say is your biggest career break, and what is it when you look back? Do you think, oh, that is where I got here today because of that move, or because of that person, or if there is anyone you like to thank for it as well, what is that biggest career break of yourself?
Sure. So, I'd like to thank James Hansen, first of all, and his head's going to get even bigger by me saying this. It's really massive as it is. And I love the guy to bits, but I met him many years ago when I was living life as an estate agent, and he and I hit it off over a coffee, and he was assisting me to find new work, and then we kept in touch over time. Then he offered me an opportunity to come and work for him. Um, and he really taught me the skills, and really got me understanding what I'm actually good at. One of the
Mm,
things that he made me understand was, at the time I was like jumping roles, more or less, and he made me understand that it's not the job that I was bored of, or the company that I was bored. Sorry, it was not the company that I was bored of, I was looking to change. It was actually the job, and
Yeah.
I was bored of the job, and the job. And when I understood that the job never really changed, it was just my email address. And at that point, I took the leap into recruitment, and I stayed with them for 4 years. And unfortunately, I had to leave their organisation due to relocating out of London at the time. So I'd say, that's one of the things that really kind of springboarded my career into recruitment. And then the other thing I've got to thank for it, which is COVID. So at the time, I got put on furlough for a period of time. But in that time, I did a CIPD in a couple of weeks just to kind of keep me busy and out of my wife's hair. So I wasn't really treading on each other's toes. But doing that CIPD really kind of gave me an understanding of what I'm doing and what my purpose is, and the problems I'm trying to solve within the TA space. Yes, a problem that you're trying to solve is you've got a requisition, it needs to be filled, but actually, how can you be better within the job that you're doing, and
Yeah,
also
yeah.
how talent acquisition fits into the wider talent HR sort of arena,
Yeah.
and how you can look at other parts of talent. So, for example, L&D or reward, employee engagement,
Mm,
and that sort of stuff to kind of really look at those, I guess, those subsectors of HR within talent acquisition and talent management, and to improve yourself and improve how the way you deal with your candidates and with your clients.
yeah. No, brilliant stuff. No, it's really interesting. And I think, obviously talking about James, obviously he's not someone I know personally, but as you say, it's a great example of leadership skills, isn't it? Really, and
Yeah,
obviously I'm sure you've taken that into your current role and you
yeah,
did
yeah,
mention it. Noticing what is it that people get a buzz from? What is it people are good at? We see it loads in leaders where it's, you, there's so many different types of people out there, and some people are very good technically and
yeah,
stuff, or some people are not so good technically but are really good with stakeholder management. But it's getting the most out of people and understanding their behaviors and what you say, what gives them that buzz really,
yeah.
and where they can succeed, because not like like you mentioned, not everyone will become a manager, not everyone wants to become a manager, not everyone will be leaders, but it's a
I definitely echo
brilliant
that.
comment.
And
Mm,
come to also think of it, James's business partner, who's one of the other owners of the business, were Alex Swiffen as well, and them two did a really good job in the team that
mm,
they had there. And also like to thank him as well. Come to think of it, because they really nurtured people and looked at people's
yeah, yeah.
skill sets and people's strengths. And I think there's a bit kind of a bit of a 180 in terms of how recruiters work. I was
Yeah,
always better at the business development side, and I enjoyed the business development side, and I really got more of a buzz of it. And
yeah, yeah,
rather than more of a buzz on the recruitment side and the candidate management piece. And they really nurtured that skill set of mine, and they really pushed me in the right directions and took me to networking events and threw me in the deep end. And at first, I hated them for it because I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and very nervous, and had a lot less facial hair when I was working for them. But it's because of them actually understanding people and their team, and nurturing them, and exposing them to
mm,
what we would have may have defined as difficult situations, but giving us that exposure. I think the team that we were in there, have all gone on to do really positive, strong things and have really good careers. And
yeah.
I think in one way, shape, or form, we've all got Alex and James to thank.
No, brilliant stuff. Okay, great stuff. Fine. So, obviously, finally, what is your inspiration? What inspires you, and what? How did you get to where you are today through your inspiration, and why is that your inspiration?
Uh, it's quite a good question, actually. I find inspiration in many different things. To be honest with you, most recently I'm inspired by my daughter, and inspired to want to do better for her and provide. And as most parents do, I think all
Yeah,
parents, no matter who you are, want to always give your kids a better life than what you had. So inspiration comes from them. Inspiration also comes from you know a lot of the learning that I'm doing in terms of leadership, how to be a better leader, how to be a better communicator, and I'm inspired by the things that I learned in that, and I want to implement them in my day-to-day life. Some of them within a working sort of environment, and then some of them within a personal environment. And then I'm also inspired by wanting to be successful, wanting to
yeah,
do better. wanted to have a bit of a legacy and really have strong teams to take on that journey with me. So again, looking back at my time at Cherry Pick People as well, it wasn't one of the things that was they looked at as an organization. It wasn't very much geared towards individual success. And appreciate, as in recruiters, you are selfish and you need to be selfish in order to be a good recruiter to an extent. But they made us also understand that in addition to individual success, team success is highly important. So I'd say that there's an element of inspiration also comes from there.
Brilliant stuff. No, great stuff. So no, Mubeen, that was great. I say it was really good to understand your journey, and I say how you've got to the level that you're at now, and obviously the progression that you've seen throughout your career and stuff. It was, I say, thank you very much for that. It was great to learn more about yourself and stuff. But just finally, before you go, obviously we've spoke a number of times now about different things and stuff. So it'd be good just to get a couple of words on your experience, conversation you've had with myself and Douglas Jackson in general, really.
It depends how much you're paying me, really. I'll send you an invoice on an hourly rate. Look, no, I think for my initial conversations and that kind of stuff, one of the things that I found quite interesting about yourself is, yes, you are a recruiter, and initially at the time, you did contact me about employment opportunities, but it's never been that pushy sort of sell. And I guess the reason why we're here today is because it's more on a knowledge sharing piece, and we've discussed a lot of knowledge sharing and things in the and what's going on in the market and that sort of stuff, which has been really good. And so I'd say kudos to you. And I think sometimes that kind of gets lost, whereby recruiters are always contacting people within an internal space or alternatively people for role, but very rarely you get recruiters actually wanting to understand what thoughts on the market, on the knowledge sharing piece, also to do some networking and some connections between various other people within the same sort of field. And I think that's some of the things that you do quite well, which is really good. And so I'd say a lot more of that. And it's not, I guess you've never really tried to sell me anything. It's just very much on a networking perspective, and a knowledge sharing perspective, which is really good and is quite refreshing.
No, great stuff. No, thanks for that. It was very useful. So, I say, Mubeen, thank you very much for sharing your story today. Obviously, it was great for you to do that and to spend some time with us today, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So, Mubeen, I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Cheers.